Hey, George, Don Knapp. We're about ready to start.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this Tuesday, December 18, 2018, full meeting of the Mclean County Board. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Pursuant to Section 2020C2A of the Mclean County Code, member George Wendt is requested to attend and participate in this meeting remotely. Proper notice was received in accordance with our board rules. Is there any objection to member Wendt attending and participating remotely? With no objection, I deem his request to attend and participate remotely approved. Thank you. Morning, George.
Morning, George.
Good morning. Looks like a long meeting.
Thank you for that observation. We'll begin the meeting with invocation. Please rise, Member Solner.
May we all take an attitude of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, in this holiday season, may we all make an effort to be kinder, gentler, and more patient when dealing with our fellow man. Be it at the Walmart, or the Jewel, or the Best Buy, or at work, or dealing with family, or as we do our work today in this legislative body. May we be extra generous with the bell ringers, or the Toys for Tots collectors, or carolers who are soliciting for the poor, or any group that are trying to help make life better for those less fortunate. May we appreciate each other at numerous holiday parties and functions. Lastly, may we thank God for the opportunity to serve McLean County and its citizens. Please protect our police, our military, our healthcare workers, and our first responders. All this in your name, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would the county clerk please call the roll?
Josh Barnett. Jacob Beard. Lindsay Bloomfield. William Casely. Sharon Chung. Chuck Erickson.
Yes, I'm here.
George Gordon.
Here.
Elizabeth Johnston. Randall Martin.
Present.
Catherine Metzger.
Present.
Scott Murphy.
Here.
Carla Robustelli. Susan Schaefer.
Here.
Logan Smith.
Here.
James Soldner.
Here.
Gerald Thompson.
Here.
Shana Wachinski. George Wendt. George Wendt is here. Lori Wilreb.
Here.
John McIntyre.
Here.
20.
So we have 20 members present and one absent. We do have a quorum. Moving on to the consent agenda, I want to call your attention to the appointments. The recommendation for George Benjamin to the Regional Planning Commission. I'm going to pull that appointment. We're still in the talking stages and it wasn't finalized as I was led to believe at the time. And so please pull that one off the agenda for this morning. We just talked about that at exec as well. And stand up. Is there a motion then? Motion to approve the consent agenda as amended by Member Schaefer, second by Member Woolrab. Comments or questions? If none, all in favor, please say aye. Opposed? I want to point out also that we need a 2/3 vote on item D. Can be found on pages 57 and 58 for the transfer ordinances. Are there any dissenting votes against the transfer ordinances to be recorded? If none, then they will be considered passed unanimously as well. We have no resolutions this morning. We'll move on to the report of standing committees. Vice Chairman Solner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Executive Committee has 4 items to present today for action. First one is E1A, request approval of a contract with Conference Technologies Incorporated for all maintenance, repair, and upgrades to the audio-visual equipment in Government Center Room 400. It comes from Information Technology.
Whoa, back up. I think we're in the wrong section.
He's in the consent agenda.
You're still in the consent agenda?
I'm on the
We'll move on to page 5, Executive Committee.
All right.
We had an amended packet come out.
I'm with you.
Some of us picked up the earlier packet.
Pardon me, on the wrong page. Here we go. Standing Committees, Executive Committee. 7A1A, request approval of a resolution establishing county board meeting dates for calendar year 2019. Comes from the County Administrator's Office. I move that.
Motion by Vice Chairman Solner. Is there a second? Second by Member Johnston. Comments or questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion has carried.
All right.
George voted no.
All right.
I didn't hear any discussion. Okay, thank you.
Next item is 7A1B, request approval of administrative telepsychiatry agreement with Genoa Healthcare LLC. And I make that motion.
Motion by Vice Chairman Solner. Is there a second? Second by Member Woolrab. Comments or questions? Member Kaisley.
I have grave concern about this item. I question whether a psychiatric conversation with a psychiatric expert by telephone is going to be much of an improvement over not having one at all. And I really think that we ought not to be entering into this without a complete consideration of this by the Health Committee and the Executive Committee, and then bring it. So I object to this.
Okay, other comments or questions? Member Robustelli.
Mr. Chairman, I understand Member Kaisley's concerns in terms of the process, but I think for me, I'm going to support this, and the reason I'm going to support it is because I do think that some is better than none. And what we are faced with today, I mean, what the Administrator's Office has had to scramble to figure out is how we're going to provide access over the holidays, especially for new clients, those that are referred from our problem-solving courts and those in the community more generally, how we're going to provide some kind of access to psychiatric services. And what we know is over the holidays is an incredible difficult time for people, and this is an opportunity for us to try to do something. And I concede that something may not be perfect in terms of how it's actually being offered. I think in-person psychiatric services is probably more ideal. But when you look at over the last 3 years and you look at some of the statistics, it's startling. I mean, across Illinois, nonprofit organizations, psychiatric service providing organizations, overwhelmingly, a majority of them have reported either cutting completely adult psychiatric services or drastically reducing the services they offer. And so while CHS has held out over the last several years, they made a determination that they couldn't provide these services. And my concern, and the thing that I hope is understood in the community, is that we as a board have tried to increase services in the community, not supplement them. And we cannot do this alone. And so one of the things that I hope is understood is that this is a complement. This is to try to plug a short-term hole, but we absolutely need our nonprofit partners, our hospital partners, and others who are providing these critical services for us to improve on where we are and where we have been. And so I support this as a short-term solution, but I hope ultimately that this is going to mean more services in a critical area that we know that we need, and I'm looking forward to having that conversation, and I hope that that conversation will include the Health Committee and the Executive Committee more robustly than it did in this particular case. But I think it's important to understand the particular circumstances here. So I plan to support this.
Thank you, and I might say I couldn't agree more. There are a lot of aspects to this. These have been considered so that everyone knows many times. This goes way back to our mental health action plan, the identified need for more practitioners, and this is a national and statewide problem. We've had numerous conversations with our hospitals and social service agencies. CHS at one time had 2 psychiatrists. They're down to 1. It seems like the psychiatry profession is something that doesn't seem to be that interesting to a number of the medical profession. The American Medical Association has also recognized that problem. We want to add to that our request and to our legislators that they try to support this. I've had chairman's roundtable discussions on this as well, and we have practitioners in exclaiming that where to go with this. Hospitals have cut services because of that as well. So we all have to work together. I totally agree, and we have been, and we've been working on this for quite some time, to the point to where we really didn't have many other places to turn other than to provide a supplemental type of a system. And I'm really proud of the staff who worked this weekend as well, just to get this up and running so that we would have something available at the direction and recommendation of our Behavioral Health Coordinating Council. I know that the department, our Board of Health is also extending grant money to try to keep this going as well. So we are all working on it. We do need to work together. Very good point. And try to find a solution for this situation. And right now, this is an interim program that we can do as part of the money that you've already passed and approved as part of the FUSE program budget, that we can provide that service and then see where we can go from there. Mr. Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I concur with Member Robustelli too, as long with the caveat that there's continued oversight by the Health and Executive Committee. But thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Other comments? Member Woolrab.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to compliment administration on pulling this together in such short notice. I know a lot of work went into it, and also want to support it for the same reasons that Member Erickson and Mr. Robustelli have cited. But I want to take this opportunity to begin to request that we identify a body that can begin to develop, and whether that's internal or external, but begin to develop some type of measurement where we can determine what kind of progress we are making overall in all areas of mental health within this community and county, because be able to benchmark our progress against those measurements, and then be able to determine from there what it is that we need to do and how we need to do it, because I'm not sure that that exists at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. And as a new member of the Mental Health Advisory Committee for the Board of Health, you can repeat that request, and maybe we could get it all worked together. Thank you. Other comments? Member Schaefer.
2 things. In response to Member Casely's concern about it being on the telephone, it's not really just on the telephone. It's like through a Skype and things like that. But I did a little bit of research on this, and I believe that telepsychiatry is probably the wave of the future. This company that we're going to be contracting with has like 250 providers or something like that that they can use to service people like us in this situation. And also, you know, Advocate Broman uses Telepsych in their emergency room. Center for Youth and Family Solutions uses that for their youth. The jail has been using it for years to provide these services. And I really do believe, because of the shortages that we have nationwide in this area, that this is probably going to be the wave of the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? If none, I'll call a question. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Mr. Casey votes no. Mr. Wendt, I didn't hear a vote.
George, did you vote? George? Okay, thank you.
Okay, and the motion has carried. Back to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The last item then today for Exec Committee is 7A1C, resolution supporting amendment to Illinois House Bill 4100, PA 100-1051, This is an amendment to a bill that deals with healthcare workers and primarily in emergency room situations and those people with behavioral health issues. It's funny that this, like the last issue we just talked about, are things that come up very quickly. I appreciate our administration and in this case, our lobbyist in Springfield had given us a heads up on this. If we don't mind, Mr. Wasson, could you just mention briefly what this does?
Sure. The HB 4100 Public Act 100-1051 was passed and signed into law in the last session. It's effective January 1st. In conversations with our partners that operate hospitals and emergency rooms, there was some concern that was brought to us relative to training to differentiate and identify individuals with behavioral illness and some symptoms that may result from that behavioral illness and their conduct in the emergency rooms, and in our partnerships working together to have conversations about how we reduce the number of people who, because of an instance in an emergency room, very specifically that is a result of their behavioral illness, that they not end up in incarceration solely because of that illness and the resulting symptoms. And so we have worked to put together some language that would simply acknowledge that those with behavioral illness, that may occur in an emergency room setting, and that they should be treated differently than somebody who intentionally acts against a worker that is in that environment. And so that is the genesis of the amendatory language that we've provided to the board today.
Did I have a motion on the floor for this? Not yet, no. I need a motion. Motion by Member Robustelli, second by Member Gordon. Okay. Any other discussions this time? Okay, if none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion's carried.
Thank you. And this will be added to our legislative program. The legislative subcommittee will meet again here before our next regular meeting, so we can have more items with that discussed. So that's all that we have from executive on action items. There's a number of reports. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the report of the Finance Committee. You seem to have center stage here today, Chairman.
I'm a lucky guy. All right. So Finance has two items. 7B1A, request approval of an emergency appropriation ordinance amending the Mclean County fiscal year 2018 combined annual appropriation and budget ordinance, General Fund 0001, Animal Control Department 0032, deals with state farm donations. It requires a 2/3 vote, and I would so move.
Motion by Chairman Solner, second by Member Worab. Comments or questions or discussion? It's nice to have donations for our shelter as well. Member Solner.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that it's again, this is a really a good thing. It's a case where State Farm has went above and beyond to sponsor some events to help with animal control as far as identification and that type of thing. So it's a great thing.
I will call the question. All in favor of the motion? I'm sorry, Member Mesker.
I will abstain.
Okay, please let the record show Member Mesker is abstaining. Member Baird will also abstain, recuse themselves for voting on this. Member Beard and Metzger. Any other comments or questions? If none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This requires a 2/3 vote. Are there any dissenting votes for this emergency transfer ordinance? If none, then let it be recorded as unanimous. We'll move on.
All right. Next item is 7B1B, request approval of an emergency appropriation ordinance amending the Mclean County fiscal year 2018 combined annual appropriation and budget ordinance, General Fund 0001 under the Animal Control Department. 0032. Deals with citizens donation. It also requires 2/3 of approval, and I so move.
Motion by Chairman Solner. Is there a second? Second by Member Kaisley. Comments or questions? Discussion. Member Solner.
Yes, again, this is another great thing. This is where, citizens have donated money to animal control, be it either through little community events or little groups that want to help out. And so, again, it's a great thing that people of our community have done.
Any other comments? All in favor of the motion as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is voted for aye, I think. Thank you. The motion is carried. Any dissenting votes? This requires a 2/3. If none, the motion is carried unanimously. We'll move on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, that's all we have for action items. I'd be glad to answer any other questions.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to the report of the Health Committee. Chair, Member Schaefer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Health Committee has no items for action this month, and our general report can be found in the unapproved minutes.
Thank you. Land Use and Development Committee. Chair, Member Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Land Use and Development Committee has no items to be presented for action, but we did meet and a good time was had by all. We also have items, our general report is found in the unapproved minutes. Thank you.
Congratulations and thank you. Transportation Committee Chair, Chairman Kaisley.
An inquiry, what do we have to do to get on that committee? Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have one item for action from the Transportation Committee, and that is a resolution fixing the compensation of the county engineer and expenditure of money for instruction and schooling and conferences.
There's a request approval of motor fuel tax resolution, right? Yes.
Yes.
Using those expenditure of those funds. Motion by Member Kaisley.
Yes.
Second by Member Thompson. Comments, questions, or discussion? If none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Sorry, I have to wait for Mr. Wendt.
Our general report is found on pages 18 through 24 of the unapproved minutes.
That motion does carry. We'll move on to the Property Committee. Chairman Murphy.
The Property Committee met, and not only was a good time had by all, but we actually got something done. And we bring, we bring 3 items for action. We request approval of amendment to amend the restated lease between the County of Mclean and the Public Building Commission. And I so move.
Motion by Member Murphy, second by Member Johnston. Comments or questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried.
We request the approval of an amendment to contract for operation and maintenance between the County of Mclean and the Public Building Commission, and I so move.
Motion by Member Murphy, second by Member Smith. Comments or questions? If none, all in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Motion is carried.
We request the approval of emergency appropriation ordinance amending the McLean County fiscal year 2018 combined annual appropriation and budget ordinance for the Facilities Maintenance Department 0041, and I so move.
Motion by Chairman Murphy, second by Member Smith. Comments or questions? If none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. This requires a 2/3 vote. Any dissenting votes that need to be recorded? If none, the motion carries unanimously. And
our items are presented for information in our general report. Can be happy to answer any questions.
thank you. We'll move on to the report of the Justice Committee Chair, Member Gordon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Justice Committee brings a number of items for action to the board this morning. Item G1A, request approval of an agreement between McLean County and the National Center for State Courts for process and outcome evaluation services through the SAMHSA Drug Enforcement and Drug Court Enhancement Grant and I will move that.
Motion by Chairman Gordon, second by Member Martin. Comments or questions? If none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried.
Item G1B, request approval of an emergency appropriation ordinance amending the McLean County fiscal year 2019 combined annual appropriation and budget ordinance, General Fund 0001, Court Services Department 0022, and I'll move that.
Motion by Member Gordon, second by Member Schaefer. Comments or questions or discussion? If none, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Are there any no votes to be recorded? This is a 2/3 requirement. If none, the motion carries unanimously.
Item G1C, request approval of an interlocal agreement between the City of Bloomington, Illinois and the County of Mclean, the 2018 Burn Justice Assistance Grant Program Award, and I move that.
Motion by Chairman Gordon, second by Member Schaefer. Comments or questions? If none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
Item G1D, an agreement for GED instruction for calendar year 2019 with Heartland Community College and the McLean County Sheriff's Office, and I'll move that.
Motion by Chairman Gordon. Is there a second? Second by Member Chung. Comments or questions? If none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried.
Mr. Chairman, with regard to items G1E, F, and G, all of these are proposed intergovernmental agreements involving the County of McLean providing booking services. So I will propose, with your indulgence and the agreement of the board, I'll propose to group those three proposals, E, F, and G, into one motion, and I'll move that.
Member Gordon moves that we combine items E, F, and G, and he moves that the request for approval. Is there any objection? Okay. Is there a second? Second by Member Kaisley. Comments or questions or discussion? Yes, Member Murphy. Oh, I'm sorry. We have a recusal, abstain vote from Member Murphy for item F. Any others at this time? If not, any discussion? If none, and all in favor of approving items E, F, and G, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried.
Item G1H, request approval of an amendment to the contract with ISU Stevenson Center for Data Research Services through the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, and I move that.
Motion by Chairman Gordon. Is there a second? Second by Member Metzger. Member Murphy will abstain from voting on this. Are there comments or questions? If none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Is there any opposed? Motion is carried.
And item G1I, request approval of an emergency appropriation ordinance amending the McLean County fiscal year 2019 combined annual appropriation and budget ordinance through the Circuit Clerk's Office, and I move that.
Motion by Chairman Gordon. Is there a second? Second by Member Smith. Comments or questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
This requires a 2/3 vote. Are there any two naysayers to be recorded at this time? If none, the motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our general report can be found in the unapproved minutes, pages 11 through 17, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. We'll move on to the report of the County Administrator, Mr. Wasson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have nothing further for the county board this morning. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to items and other business and communication. I have one. Remind you to check your January calendar because we have an adjusted calendar for this month. The Health Committee and Transportation Committee are so anxious to start the new year. They're getting a jump on it, and they're going to go a day early. So when Mrs. Morlock sends out those calendars, be sure, remind yourself to take a look at them and make sure, write down some notes on scheduling. And we'll get into a routine as we move on. Any other comments or any other business or communication at this time? If not, do we have bills here?
Bills go.
We have bills that have been submitted, reviewed, and approved by our auditor at the amount of $3,293,183.79. Do I hear a motion to approve the bills as presented? Motion by Member Smith, second by Member Kaisley. Comments or questions about the bills at this time? If none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried. Wishing everyone here a happy holiday season. Thanks for all of your cooperation and looking forward to a productive new year, and this meeting's adjourned.